Because now we see a small group of central banks bankrupting other banks by design to consolidate. That's in their own documents. We see the IMF and World Bank to be holding companies for the global tax money through what they did agree to at Copenhagen. And that's actually what they're now setting up. They're openly setting up what participants told you they were going to set up. Are they getting this position for 2012?
That's where they're headed from my last information, Alex. They don't slow down on their plans. They don't defer them. They just eliminate the problem for their plans to go through. People like me, of course. So, yeah, I would say there's going to be a major currency splash in 2012.
Or leading up to 2000, or leading up to 2012. I mean, this is already happening. Yeah, the globe is imploding by an engineered depression, and everything is falling to the house of Rothschild and Rockefeller. And every time they bust an oligarch in Russia, it turns out it was really owned by the Rothschilds. That's mainstream news.
Well, yeah, look at the news about Warren Buffett. He's accusing the Rothschild family of controlling the world gold market. He's probably right, because the Rothschilds set the price of gold twice a day in London for the world.
Unbelievable information. And again, when did you first start going public, releasing the videos of the conferences, releasing the audio, and saying all of this? Wasn't it like 20 years ago?
Yes. It was in 1988 that a preacher named Alan Dale, who had a radio station in Texas, was accused of having me on, and they said, "Look, if you have that guy George Hunt on again, you're going to lose your job." Well, he had me on again the next week because this is earth-shattering news. Well, the station was immediately bought out, and Alan Dale lost his job.
And that's the issue. 20 years ago, 22 years ago, they could stop stuff. Now they can't. It's out in the open. Stay there. George Hunt, incredible information. The website is with a V in the front, bigbank.com. Our websites are Infowars.com and prisonplanet.tv. We'll be right back. Okay, final segment with George Hunt, and then I'm going to break down all the huge Bankergate news, what's happening with healthcare. It can be stopped. It looks like it's in conference right now. The flu fraud being fully exposed. But I want to go to calls. Mike, Herman, Terry, Ben. We're only taking calls specifically for George Hunt for your questions on this important issue of a global elite organizing the planet under the fraud of fake environmentalism to take your basic rights, your liberty, your property. And we played that clip yesterday of Australia where they're just grabbing all the farmers' land, literally in some areas all of it, and just saying it's off limits for carbon credits. You can't run cattle or sheep on your own land anymore. This is really happening, and it's happening here, and we've got to stop these people. When we got the SPP documents a few years ago from the North American Union meetings, it was the corporate leaders there running the government meetings with the bureaucracy saying, we're going to tax and pay ourselves the carbon tax. The good news is this is in trouble. George Hunt, are you not excited to see Copenhagen exposed? And you were talking about this 22 years ago, and people, some of them were laughing at you. Now it's all out in the open. Is that exciting you, George Hunt?
Oh, it's exciting me so much. My name is George Washington Hunt. I was born on Columbus Day, and I think that I have a mission to defeat these people, to help defeat these people. I had when I was on the Jesse Ventura show, I said to the camera, I think they're going to win it, and the reason was that they're smarter than us. But if you take our combined intelligence, like I'm hearing coming out of you and you're hearing come out of me, we can whip these guys so we can get the Americans to cooperate.
Americans and others around the world just have to face their own documents, their own statements. I mean, in fact, I'll grab it. It's over here. I talk about this book every week on air, Eco-Science. I've scanned through the whole 1,100 pages or whatever it is. Let me see how long it is. Yeah, the 1,100 pages. I've scanned through this, and it openly says poison the water supply, sterilize us, cut off our resources, bankrupt us. This is the White House science czar, John P. Holdren, wrote Eco-Science. I mean, there are literally thousands of white papers, books, publications where they openly state what they're openly doing. And now this guy gives press conferences, the White House science czar, saying they've got a secret program already manipulating the weather.
That's right. They've already they dreamed up these plans as far as hundreds of years ago, and the contemporary plans that we see where the banks are going down and so on is part of their plan that was conceived as far as I could see 100 years ago.
Okay, I want to go to calls, but first I want to play a few global governance clips for people that may have missed the last few of them that have occurred in the last 2 months. Herman von Rompuy, the head of the EU, openly calling for global governance, saying that the UN global carbon tax is the heart of world government. The head of the EU, we have Gordon Brown calling for global governance. We have David Rothschild, the heir to this whole criminal fortune, calling for it. Here is David Rothschild from Copenhagen on Bloomberg TV.
It's past the point of talking. We know historically that the global governance the sort of agenda to these issues is very hard to try and is with all the best intentions, it's very hard to actually activate. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing a lot of fragmentation going on in Copenhagen, a lot of different agendas pulling in different directions. And I think what we really need to see is people on the ground starting to actually act upon the low-hanging fruit and start to try and move on the solutions that we have at hand.
In case you missed it, global governance. It's
past the point of talking. We know historically that the global governance the sort of agenda to these issues is very hard to try and is with all the best.
So there he is saying the time for talk is over. That means you don't get any input. We're doing this. Well, we did get input. We did expose their fraud. They're in trouble. George Hunt.
Oh, this whole global carbon tax thing that's going on, I have to admit that I don't really understand it. But I do know that the House of Rothschild pushed it through through the chairman of the House of Rothschild at a meeting of the London banks. That happened about 6 months ago when I picked up on that clip. This carbon tax, what do you know about it, Alex?
Well, it's fully meant to tax and control all human activity, to be selectively enforced, just like the health care plan. Some unions don't have to do it, but the rest of the public do. It's all selectively enforced. Like Obama decided what car dealerships stayed open, what didn't. $3 billion of the $25 billion for the auto bailout paid to move factories on record, this is Associated Press, to Brazil, Eastern Europe, Russia, and China. So the globalists literally pay to have factories built for themselves. As Maurice said on TV in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro as the head of the UN summit, it is our job to destroy industrial society in the West. Let's play this clip of Herman von Rompuy in his acceptance speech as the new head of the EU calling for global governance.
2009 is also the first year of global governance with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis. The climate conference in Copenhagen is another step towards the global management of our planet. Our mission, our presidency, is one of hope, supported by acts and by deeds.
Okay. Again, there's Herman von Rompuy. We have Ban Ki-moon, Gordon Brown. Why are they coming out in the open now? Because we're approaching the 2011-12, which all the economists here say they believe is the time that everything's going to collapse. Are they getting us ready for global government?
Oh, yes. They're getting us ready for global government, even in the schools, intermediate schools, colleges. People are all whistling global government. It has infected our society already. They'll attract the people through the religious aspects of the government, through the promise of being able to buy or sell if you cooperated with the global government. If you don't cooperate, you won't be able to buy or sell. That's been prophesied in the Bible, and I think that we're headed for that very soon when we have only one bank.
And they're openly saying that's their program. This global private banking government will decide if you can have a business, if you can have a factory, if you can have a job, if you can have your farm you own. I mean, this is really happening with the animal ID, the premises ID, all of it. That's why it's so...
Yes, sir. In the Copenhagen 15, the Echo 15, whatever it was called at Copenhagen, if we had gone to the line and signed that document, we would have been giving away our rights to how much hot water we can use per day, what kind of car we'll drive. We would have made ourselves as the same common person in the world. And here we are, a blessed country, and we give it all up through Copenhagen 15.
It's not enough for these bankers to rob and loot and run their scams. They want to shut off our resources to make us completely dependent on them. We're going to calls now.